Have you ever thought about doing something crazy when you felt like your life was falling apart? Maybe you thought about quitting your job, moving somewhere exotic, or becoming a professional dominatrix like I did. Today I'd like to tell you my story of how I lost everything, became a professional dominatrix, and discovered the missing pieces of my soul. At 25, I thought I'd had my life all figured out. I just got my master's degree in art therapy, was living in New York City, and had just married the man of my dreams. But that's all it was really, a dream. A dream that quickly faded from fantasy into a complete and utter nightmare. See, I'd always wanted a loving family to support me. I came from a controlling, fundamentalist Christian home where I didn't receive a lot of support. On the outside, it looked like a happy home. Like everything was perfect, but underneath the facade, I was being molested by my neighbor and had no one in my family to stand up for me. Instead, the abuse was ignored, swept under the rug like it wasn't really happening. But for years, I was being raped, and the repeated abuse took a huge toll on my soul. As a little kid, I'd remember fantasizing about being an adult one day, escaping my situation, and creating a loving family where I'd feel like I belonged and felt empowered. When I was 17, I fell in love with a boy who would forever change my life. It all started out on a family vacation to Colonial Williamsburg, where I met this really handsome Scottish guy at a trip to Busch Gardens amusement park. The moment I laid eyes on him, I felt like we had this profound connection. We stayed in touch on and off for 7 years as pen pals. 7 or 8 years later, he came to visit me in New York City when I was in grad school. And when he asked me to marry him, I thought that the prayers for the life I'd always wanted had finally been answered. Well, I was wrong. It wasn't long after we were married that I realized that my husband was a total liar and a complete sociopath. Within 6 months, he'd already blown through my life savings, and before I could figure out my finances, he was already on a plane back to Scotland. I'll never forget the day I came home and realized that he and all of his belongings had vanished. It was like a huge part of my soul left the day that he did. I was devastated. And it was at that time that I was already having a really hard time finding a stable job in my field. So I was juggling 3 different nanny jobs. Because the nanny agency I worked for saw my extensive psychology training, they put me in charge of the most challenging children, the ones that all the other nannies had quit working for. I was spending mornings force-feeding ADHD drugs down one 4-year-old's throat, and afternoons preventing 2 sisters from beating the living daylights out of each other. And I wasn't in much better shape myself. I was barely keeping it together, excusing myself from play date to cry in the bathroom when it felt like my life was falling to pieces. Working for these distressed kids was taking a huge toll on my already broken soul, but I had to figure out a way to come up with rent money in 2 weeks. I was on my own. It was at that time that one of the nannies I hosted playdates with turned to me and said, "Kristen, I don't mean to insult you, but maybe you should think about doing something else. Hey, maybe you should become a professional dominatrix." A dominatrix? I asked. I couldn't help but picture myself in some black leather outfit with a whip. And then the other nanny chimed in and said, "You know, I had a friend who did that, made a lot of money. Maybe you should give it a shot." And at that point, I thought, I'd already lost everything. What else had I got to lose? Now, a misconception that some people have about dominatrixes is they think that they have sex with their clients, which isn't true. It's all about having a psychological power play. In fact, there's plenty of powerful businessmen who are sick and tired of constantly calling the shots, and they want to get bossed around too. And when I got to the dungeon in Midtown Manhattan, I realized that I'd hit the jackpot. And it wasn't because I was mean or nasty. It was because I was sensitive and empathic. All the clients that I was attracting at the dungeon began to spill their deepest, darkest secrets, and our sessions became really therapeutic, with the occasional real kick in the ass. But there was something that I realized from all of my art therapy and psychology training is that I'm just really good at holding space for people to just be themselves. And there was something else I noticed. I noticed that my clients were coming to me with stories of real traumas that had actually happened to them, that they wanted to role play in our sessions together. It was like they were stuck in some sort of a loop, in an old story that they just couldn't let go of. And I realized I was stuck in my own loop too, of feeling disempowered, abandoned, unloved. I'd had all these voids in my heart from traumas in my past. Voids that I'd been trying to fill with love, power, control. But none of those things ever made a lasting difference. Still, I felt raw from what had happened. I've been trying to use my role as a dom to feel more empowered, sexy, desirable, and whole. But at the end of the day, even if I felt really good about myself, I'd go home and begin to feel all the emptiness inside. Something inside of me was missing. Now, I wasn't destined to work at the dungeon forever. Yeah, some days I had a lot of fun, and it felt really good to be in this empowering role. But at the core, I knew that I wanted to help people in a more empowering way that lifted their spirits instead of beat them down. I'd had a plan B all along, and I'd been putting myself through school as a holistic health coach when all of a sudden it was like my intuition sprang to life. And for whatever reason, I was getting this message through my bones that it was time to leave the dungeon immediately. And as soon as I did, it's like my life began to fall into place as if by magic. My health coaching practice was flourishing, and the universe was presenting me with all of these opportunities to heal my broken soul. That's when the message about soul retrieval began to appear everywhere. My coaching clients were telling me about it. Books on soul retrieval were falling off of bookshelves at bookstores at me, and I knew I needed to learn more. I learned that soul loss is this ancient idea that if you've gone through trauma, the part of your soul can separate from your body, and that during the shamanic healing art of soul retrieval, you can bring that lost part of your soul back and feel empowered and whole. And I was convinced I had to experience this for myself. And once I did, I felt amazing. It was like I had my power back, and I was more like me than I ever had been before. I was so deeply moved and inspired by my experiences with soul retrieval that I realized that I wanted to learn more about it. I figured if I could get my power back, then I could learn how to help other people get their power back too. And today I'm happy to say that it's my full-time job to empower people to get their power back through shamanic healing modalities like soul retrieval. And in retrospect, I'm glad I got married to my ex, lost everything, and did something crazy like become a professional dominatrix, because I realized that I needed to go through my own dark night of the soul to reclaim my power and discover my destiny. Which brings me to this moment of now, and the whole reason I've created the Shamanatrix channel. I wanted to give you tools for empowerment and tell you about shamanism and soul retrieval, because I wish I knew about this long ago, years ago. So I wanted to create a space where I could educate you about different ways to get your power back. So, if you're curious about soul retrieval or want to learn more about shamanism and other ancient indigenous healing techniques, then I encourage you to subscribe to my channel. And if you'd like to learn more about my story, then check it out. I wrote a whole book about it, and I'll list it in the links below. It's called Playing Karma, a former church girl's true journey from bondage to enlightenment. Well, I hope to see you again soon, so make sure to subscribe, and I can't wait to share more with you. Magic until next time.